Alright, for video 3 you can see that we're in EduCAD here. I want you to open up critical points. It's this picture right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on critical points. It'll open up into a picture of a page out of your text. You can just look at the page in your text if you want to, but it's our first chance to talk about what critical points are. So if we look at a part like this, 3.28, the most critical components on here, the center of this circle, center of this circle, the center of this one. So those are critical points, those three. Okay. Now we might say that this is a critical point up in here in this corner, or maybe the center of this radius. But if we had to argue about the most critical points, they are these three right here that really help make up the part. And you'll notice that when we start doing sketching, or we start doing a 2D drawing of this part, that's what we start off with. We start off by locating the three critical points. And from there, we offset certain distances. Come off this critical point to make this edge, come off this critical point to make that edge. And then we add our circles in afterwards. Again, always focusing on those critical points. And then we darken and trim up to become the part that we want. And so this is similar to the effect we're going to use when we actually do this in SolidWorks. We're always going to ask ourselves, how many critical points are there, and where do we want our origin? Okay, so we're gonna leave critical points here for a minute, and we're gonna jump to SolidWorks, and we're gonna work on a sketch together. I'm gonna back out there for a second. I'm gonna go to this. These are some notes you can refer to later, but I'm gonna go to 2-4-J and K. I'm gonna click on that. It brings up this sketch right here. I'm going to right click on it and say copy image, and then I want to go to SolidWorks. If you hit new and MU start part, hit OK. Now what we can do is we can go to edit and hit paste, and that drawing should follow us in. So all we did is we copied the image, and now we've pasted it in place here so we can kind of see it. So two different drawings here, 2-4-J and 2-4-K. We're going to work on this top one. And let's analyze it here briefly. We have 5 critical points. One obviously for the center of each circle, but then because this axis and this axis cross one another, this center is also a critical point. And so I'm going to walk you through how we start this sketch. We would choose any flat plane. Just by default, I usually choose the front plane. It has to be selected in blue, and then I'm going to choose sketch, and you'll see that that comes up against us. I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 center lines. Just click down and drag and let it up. I can click and hold down your button and drag and let it up. We'd like to see this feedback. We'd like to see this vertical and horizontal, those things come into being. I don't have any links on these yet. They aren't in any position. I can drag them all around. So let's look at this picture, and we'll realize that kind of the intention of the designer is that this is 3.5 from here to here. It's also 3.5 from there to there. And so that center line from this point to this point is divided along the middle right here. So I'm gonna come over here to my sketch geometry. I'm gonna say add relation between this line, you can see that selection happens up there, and that origin point. So there's the line, there's the origin. My relation is going to be midpoint. Notice how that line went black now. The ends of it are blue, but its position is locked in place. I can change its length, but the origin is always at the middle. So we've added our first constraint, our first relationship. We're going to do the same thing to this line. We're going to come over here. We're going to say add relationship. Here's our selection box between the origin, there's our origin, and the line, and we're going to say midpoint. So now no matter what length we make these, now we've actually got all 5 critical points. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the center one, which is 5. So we can come in here and start adding some of this information. So we could put our two circles on, a radius of 1 and a diameter of 1. And so I'm going to click circle and come out here, make one circle, just kind of dragging it and dropping it. Make another circle, again, drag it and drop it. I'll come up here to Smart Dimension. Notice that has a diameter symbol on it. And so the diameter symbol looks like it's a diameter of 1. And this one, since it's a radius of 1, it will be a diameter of 2. A radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge. So if the radius is 1, that means the diameter from one edge all the way to the other would be 2. So that's what we've got here. I'm going to go ahead and do that on all other 4 corners. Notice I don't really care what size I'm drawing them. I'm just going to add some relationships. Over here to add relationship. I say this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. All 4 arcs are going to be equal. And I'll do the same thing with the outside circles. I'll come over here to sketch. I'll say I want to add a relationship. Outside circle, outside circle, outside circle, and outside circle are all equal. Now they didn't turn black. They're not all the way defined yet. We still have our midpoint. They are staying in line with one another. We don't have any distances on them, so we're still missing this 250 and this 350. So I'm going to go ahead and go from the circle to this circle and pull out here to the right and say 2.5. And I'll probably pull from this circle out to this circle and say 3.5. Now, those are pretty well defined, even though I don't have the second 3.5 or the second 2.5 dimension. And I don't really need them because I've already told them that this line is centered on this. So you can always define a sketch by using the exact number of dimensions or less, but you can never use more dimensions. So we've got 4 defined circles. In order for us to continue making the part, we would draw these lines from these quadrant points at the bottoms of the circles or at the sides of the circles, always waiting for that preview to come up with those little yellow dots. And then we can come in here with trim. I always use trim to closest. I would trim this up. So we did pretty good. We'd like to add these radiuses in. I'm going to put a circle over here. And then my general rule when you have geometry like this is if the geometry is blue, you grab it and move it around and kind of tell it what it should be doing. And so for this one, I'm going to add a relationship from this line to this circle and tell them to be tangent. I'll hit my check mark. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a relationship from this line to this circle. Just have those 2 items there and tell them to be tangent. So now that circle is tangent to both those lines. I haven't given a constraint to the size yet. I don't have a dimension on it, but I have it. It's positioned pretty well defined, and so now I can come over here and I can look at this drawing and say, well, it's a radius of 0.5. I'll trim it. And then I'll put the radius on it with that smart dimension, 0.5. And now I can trim these lines out. You can do the same thing in the other 4 corners. can add all a relationship to all these arcs and make them all equal. Oh, we must have missed this one. But now we have to tell them all to be tangent. So this circle and this line are tangent, and then this line and this circle are tangent. And then we can trim it up. Now, I'll grant you that this is a pretty quick crash course in getting things defined. You can see all the little sketch relations. We've thrown some geometry down there. We've gotten some things trimmed up. What I'm going to ask you to do is work on this 2-4-J. You can work on this one if you want. Each time you go to start a new sketch, you should always start a new file in SolidWorks. You could work on vinyl gasket. You could work on angle plate. And don't worry about questions when we meet together again on Wednesday. Nothing is due. We'll just go over what you've learned, and we'll spend some more time together then.